Hello, 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 y'all. I am fortunate enough to be here today with a special man. I'm not going to steal his thunder. Who the heck are you and what are you doing here today?
I'm Alessio Toniolo, and I'm a TEDx organizer from Atlanta, Georgia. I've helped plan 2 TEDx events at TEDx Marist School. I'm a senior applying to colleges right now and working on my speaking career and ready to bring some value to y'all.
And I love that intro. So for you, you're going on round 3 of TEDx at this point. You've probably got the whole team ready. You've got the systems and everything. You're almost an expert at organizing TEDx talks now. Is that right?
Yes, for sure.
And for you, when is your next TEDx event? I know you and I talked about this off camera, but I think it's important we mention it now here too.
Yeah, so our next TEDx event is on December 5th. We usually run it for about an hour, and we run 5 speakers. They're usually a combination of student speakers, teacher speakers, and alumni as well. And yeah, we're working on that right now. Right now, our speakers are in the stage of finalizing their scripts and going to memorize for about a month because you need a lot of time to really perfect that.
And I know this is a question a lot of speakers that I talk to, they all have this pain point, those that haven't given a TEDx talk yet. How do you choose your speakers? What is the glorious knowledge that you and your team have that all of these speakers out here are so curious to learn?
We think everyone has a really good idea and has potential with most talks as long as they're not, against the boundaries of, religion or promoting a product. It's really how you present the talk and how you phrase it. Now, if you watched a couple TED Talks, maybe like a really popular one is Inside the Mind of a Master Procrastinator. Just by the title it's like pretty well knowledge on how to organize your time and get over that hurdle of doing work, but it's really about the presentation and especially about the title. We usually try to work with stuff that we can kind of almost phrase as, a word would be clickbait, but stuff that is really eye-popping and is unique. We really look for unique ideas. And people are unique, especially their passions and hobbies are usually unique. We've had a couple speakers talk about personal research they've done from intersectional feminism to green hydrogen cars. And while those topics are highly esoteric, if we present them in a engaging, unique way, like for hydrogen cars, we talk about how it's using a past technology like steam and bringing it to the modern day. And that really clicked with our audience for our last event.
And now for you, it's no easy feat to organize a TED Talk. Why did you, especially 3 years ago when you were just getting started into high school and all this kind of stuff, what was your kind of initial motivation to say, hey, this could be really freaking hard. I have no idea what we're going to do yet, but I want to learn this. I'm going to take this risk. Let's check this out. How did you have that courage? What was your kind of story to start that?
And that's a great question. Initially, I wanted to give a TED Talk, and I think that's how most TEDx organizers start, is they see a TED Talk, they have an idea, and they want to present on it. I've done a couple public speaking events in middle school and early high school. I did debate, and I wanted to continue that passion. And I found out about TEDx through a friend at a nearby school, but there's no real guidance in the process other than how to fill out the application and like what the prompts are. So I just kind of went into it alone. The big problem was finding ideas for the application. Now, thankfully, my school has a lot of talented, especially teachers with experts in their fields. And the biggest part about that was going around talking to, over 60 teachers, 100 students, asking them, hey, what cool ideas do you have? What would you give a TED Talk on? And usually people have that like one little, thing they're like an expert on, or if someone else is having a conversation and they're not in it, they're like, oh, I know more than those people do. Like that's something I should be talking to them about. So I look for those ideas, assembled a team of other organizers, and really channeled that into the first application. Now we got rejected 3 times. The first time was because we didn't phrase the name properly. I initially did it as TEDx Marist School, but you have to go through that youth license for 1 year before you can go on to a regular TEDx event for a school. The second idea was you really need to have diverse topics. Now, this is a big thing TED hits on. You need to have a diverse array of topics. Our application was too focused on education topics because we are a school, and that's like a big concern for schools. But you really need to have a diverse array, also a diverse range of speakers, because TED asks about backgrounds. And our third application was we didn't have a clear theme to the event. You really need to have a unique theme, not a very general. Usually really niche themes are good. Our first event was blazing a new trail, and the idea was how can we go off the beaten path and find ideas that are unconventional but can bring about change. So you want to find very unique and specific themes in order to succeed in your applications.
And as an organizer, do you need to have the speakers and ideas selected before you apply to TED to get the
No,
license, or it's reverse?
no, not at all. You kind of bring about any ideas, especially if you have any of your own ideas, you can bring that to the application. I would suggest having some speakers lined up because once you get a license, you have 12 months to actually give an event and you need to give speakers ample time. But you can do whatever ideas you want. I know I selected a couple of my own and a couple from not even teachers, but old alumni and other people in the Atlanta community.
What did you notice a lot of speakers, or the majority of speakers that you had and you and your team selected to have on your stage? What is one thing, one perception maybe that they understood completely wrong about to come on the TEDx stage, and you're like, no, that's not how it works. You need to change your idea like this, or you need to do this instead. You have the wrong perspective about this.
The biggest thing is knowing your audience and targeting your audience. A lot of people get really deep into their own, passions and hobbies, especially with one speaker I worked with. She was very knowledgeable in her field. I mean, had conducted a couple research papers that were working on being published, competed in, debate, and did a lot of stuff for her topic. And so when you're in that stage, obviously, you don't know what it's like to be a completely, like a little student out of school or someone completely new to the idea. And you need to be able to bring that down and present it in an engaging way. So that was the big thing, is they didn't realize how hard they needed to work to make the idea engaging and phrase it in a way that targets their audience and focuses on them.
That brings up an interesting point. I've spoken to a few TEDx speakers that they gave their TEDx talk to the audience online, right? Like there was an in-person audience, but it was at a high school. They were much more focused on the millions of views and people watching on YouTube, not the high school students in person. How do you normally guide the speakers you have on your stage to go about that decision as well? Do they talk to the masses online, or do they talk to the in-person audience, or a kind of hybrid?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because normally when people come to these events, they don't realize that, oh, this is also going to be on the TEDx YouTube channel. I mean, we do a really good job of promoting that to them, but I'm going to say market it for the YouTube channel and for a universal audience, because especially at a school, or if you have a, like a very local community event, you need to bring ideas that aren't, relying on specific details to your school or recent events. And usually when you engage a universal audience, it always comes back home to the people there.
And what has been the impact on the speakers' lives that you've had on your stage, TEDx Merit School? How has their life been affected, for the positive or negative, whatever it may be, before and after giving their TEDx talk? What changed?
I mean, for one thing, it's just amazing to go on a stage, have the TED prestige there, have an audience who is very, has high expectations, and to be able to fulfill those expectations, deliver a talk you've worked on for months, and have it on the YouTube channel. We had one speaker in particular whose YouTube video really blew up and got a lot of comments, actually sparked a pretty heated debate in the comments section. But the big thing that they take away is that their ideas are of value to a more global audience. So they think outside of the bubble of their school, of their, family and friends, and think, okay, now I can reach a bigger audience. What are some other more, unique and universal things I can work on? What are some ways I can break out of my community and reach the rest of the United States and the world? In particular, we had a couple speakers who were so excited that they wanted to come back and organize. Now that's the biggest pipeline, is they go from speaking to organizing, and they love working with other students, talking to many teachers, gathering ideas, and really helping on that end.
Is there a network of TEDx organizers, like a place where you guys can all meet online, or maybe a regional TEDx organizer meetup, something like that you've been part of?
Yes, yeah. There's an online community run by TED where where organizers can not only get advice from each other, but network and talk to each other. And usually through LinkedIn, you can find, TEDx organizer in the subtitle and in the caption. Mm-hmm. And there are some in-person events. Now, for Atlanta, we had a meetup recently between a couple of the schools. And also you get a lot of interest from people cold emailing and trying to get into your event. And that actually I've met a lot of really cool people. I met this kid last month who wanted to give a talk, and unfortunately we can't allow people outside of our school to give a talk, but he had a passion for ethical science and using AI to bring ethics to science and measure, like, if a research study is using ethical practices, and they're not trying to gain popularity in academia, but they're actually bringing about change. So I've been working with him on a couple other projects, and it was a really good connection through just a cold email that he wanted to give a TED talk. And now we're working on organizing an event at his school.
TEDx event.
Exactly.
Cool. What do you want to do a little promo of it here?
No, we're going through the application process, but it's for the Weber School for the 2025-2026.
Cool. Very cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And for you personally, what has been the impact of organizing 3 TEDx events? Because that's no small feat.
I think I've really worked on, honestly, I've learned so much from seeing people's different talks, and especially how people work on how they reason through their ideas in the brainstorming process. What's really interesting is people usually never start with their first idea. Usually they'll have an initial idea that they think is good, and we'll be like, okay, this has potential, but it's not exactly geared to their audience. And they think more about the purpose of what their talk is and what does it do and how will that make the audience interested. They do that process a little bit, and they usually connect to a different dot. So for example, one of the speakers we're working with right now had an initial idea on how can we revolutionize our local clean transportation system, because in Atlanta we have what's called the Beltline, and it's caused a lot of gentrification issues in the area, and their interest area was how can we fix that. But eventually this led to a different idea because we wanted to gear towards the universal audience. And now they're working on, hey, what if we could combine rail, cars, walking paths into one seamless kind of loop, not just for Atlanta, but for other cities. And they began looking at books about other cities' urban transportation problems. So this began a whole research process, and it really taught me that, the first idea is never the best idea. It's always an iteration, a design process of ideas. And that you need to be open to that, and that can really bring about a good learning experience, and has helped me in my own projects and ambitions to
That's
keep
awesome.
iterating.
And for the speaker that's out there that maybe they kind of like the guy that sent you the cold email, for those people that maybe they see an organizer on the TEDx website and they really want to give a TED talk, they don't really know how, what guidance would you give them?
Well, I have a really good tip for cold emailing, and it's to send a video. I've gotten a couple cold emails where instead of just writing, hey, this is my name, this is my topic, I'd be really interested, they have no subject, no text, and they just send an email, and it's them explaining their idea and going actually like through a little bit of the talk. And that's the best way, because not only do you get to see what the talk is about, it's really easy for me to watch, but you also get to see their speaking style, and if they're going to be good public speakers, if they're confident in their voice. And it's really engaging. And every single time I've gone that, I've worked with them and replied and worked with them to see what we can do. So that's a really good tip for cold emailers.
That's awesome. Thank you. So guys, if you didn't hear that, I'll repeat it, because I think that was really valuable, and I appreciate you sharing that. That was one of the best cold emails for a speaker to DM a TEDx organizer, email a TEDx organizer. No subject, no text, just a video of them presenting their idea we're spreading and them speaking on it. That's very valuable. You mentioned for the person that they've sent this email, that is kind of a gray area. In a lot of TEDx talks, they will accept ideas that are not from that specific place, and some won't. And so it's very kind of dependent on the organizer. What guidance would you share based on your knowledge on that? Which TEDx are okay with that, which aren't, and why?
Okay. What you want to do is not send 50 emails to a bunch of different events that maybe aren't even close to you and get almost no replies. You want to focus on having a high rate of reply by really targeting, who you're emailing in the local event. Learn about the event, figure out what theme they have, and make your video and target it for that theme, for that event. And I guarantee you, if you do that, say 5 times to 5 different local events instead of 50 that are maybe even across the country, you're going to get a much higher reply rate.
That's awesome. And for you, where can people find you on the internet? Where can they put a little mini Alessio in their pocket if they want to keep you around?
Oh my gosh. Of course, LinkedIn, Instagram, but I'm trying to explore short form content, especially for a startup project my friend and I are working on. We're working on a research tool for data center companies to find sustainable locations. Now, through TEDx, I've really garnered my passion for sustainability and for climate change. We've had one of our first event actually had 3 climate change talks. Well, not climate change, but related to climate change. And it was a really popular topic. And TED actually was in approval when we submitted the application to have kind of leaning more towards that because it's such a timely and relevant issue. But through that, I've really gained a passion for it. And it's led on to different projects and working through people. Now, the kid I met a couple months ago through a cold email, we're working together on that as well. And we hope to use our TEDx expertise to help increase our impact.
That's awesome. And so what's the Instagram handle that people can follow you at?
Okay, no Instagram handles yet, but we'll get to that. Yeah.
Okay, cool. LinkedIn, just your name. Okay, gotcha. Do you want to spell that out for those that are listening on audio?
That's AlessioToniolo.
Awesome.
And you can also visit on LinkedIn, linkedin.com/in/at6.
Cool. And for your future, what is your everything everything you've learned from organizing a few TEDx events? What does your future with TEDx look like? And then what does your bigger, longer term vision future look like based on everything right now? Obviously, as you move forward, things can change because you learn new things and so forth. But right now, what does it look like for you?
Yeah, a lot of colleges and universities have excellent TEDx events that are student run, usually about 10 people to a team. So I'm very excited to continue that at whatever college I go to. And in the future, I would hope through, working in the startup space to also use that expertise for speaking and presenting ideas and also giving pitches to, venture capital. Yeah, that's what I'm excited for.
Awesome. And last question for you here. What is one knowledge nugget that you would share with the aspiring speaker, the professional speaker, or the entrepreneur that speaks to grow their business, particularly regarding TEDx? That's something you are an expert in. What do you know that they should?
Yeah, so if you're an expert in it, then ask why you. That's the big thing you want to bring to, organizers or events you're applying to is why should you be giving the talk? Of course, credibility is very important when you're going to organizers, when you're going to give, in detailed talk. So have projects or research or even blog posts and activity on social media that kind of shows that, you're active in the space, you're posting about it, and you have an audience, even if it's just on LinkedIn, that you have an audience that people can see for credibility. So why you?
That's awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that. Guys, if you're listening here and you found value in what he has been sharing today, send this for that one friend, send it to them. If they're thinking of getting a TEDx talk, they don't have a ton of information on it, and they would do anything to just have a 20-minute conversation with a TEDx organizer, learn from what they know, send this to them. What Alessio has just shared has been very valuable. So just do them that favor, send this over to them. Alessio, thanks for taking the time to be here. And guys, thank you for listening.
Thank you, Ryan.